Not all that long ago, and not all that far away. The steamboat Arabia sank about 6 miles away from here, about a mile outside of Parkville, Missouri. She was located, excavated, and recovered not by a group of archaeologists or historians, but by a small group of everyday friends who simply loved a great adventure. Bob Hawley, along with his sons David and Greg, owned and operated Hawley Refrigeration in Independence, Missouri. Jerry Mackey, a Kansas City restaurant owner and longtime customer and friend of the Hawleys, and Dave Luttrell, a heavy equipment operator based in Stillwell, Kansas. Together, these 5 men took on a task unheard of in the state of Missouri, uncovering an American treasure so forgotten in time that no one even knew it existed. Well, almost no one. On a particularly hot morning in early July 1985, David Hawley was called to repair a broken air conditioner at a residence whose homeowner fancied himself a bona fide treasure hunter. The man was a character, a formidable, gun-wielding man who actually admitted to searching for Bigfoot. The walls of his home were plastered with images of UFOs and maps of old river channels, and he recalled tale after tale of his explorations and theories of lost treasure. However, one of these accounts stood apart from the rest. When asked about the maps on the wall with black dots littering the page, the man simply replied, "Well, those right there are lost steamboats. Rivers are full of them. And if you found just one, and it still had its cargo on board, well, you'd be rich beyond rich." Once back in the service truck, David called his father, Bob, and brother, Greg, to meet for lunch at Highboy, a restaurant owned by Jerry Mackey, who came out of the kitchen to listen in. David chronicled all that he'd seen and heard that morning, and the others listened, fascinated by the idea of steamboats and lost treasure. When the extended lunch break was finally over, all 4 agreed digging up a sunken steamboat would be the adventure of a lifetime. The 5th member of the squad, Dave Luttrell, caught word of the search and asked to join in on the endeavor. He was the only one of the group who actually owned a bulldozer, so his membership was warmly accepted. Years of research followed. Newspaper clippings, photographs, and maps were read, copied, and printed. The height and fall of steamboats happened in the blink of an historical eye, from the 1820s through the 1870s. During those 6 decades, nearly 400 ships were lost in the river's muddy waters. The first of these was the Missouri Packet. Built in Louisville, Kentucky in 1818, she lasted only 2 years before sinking in 1820. News stories suggested a cargo of gold and silver coins was still aboard. After learning of the Packet and her whereabouts, the partners began the 4-month excavation in the winter of 1987. They worked every day, regardless of freezing temperatures and personal expense. And then, finally, the skeleton of the long-lost steamer was revealed. Shaped like a large, flat-bottomed canoe, this 125-foot by 20-foot long sternwheeler carried only a 90-ton payload. And while the river water had washed away the majority of the boat's contents, the treasure seekers recovered the boiler and single engine you see before you, which had somehow remained affixed to the ship. This engine is considered one of the oldest maritime steam engines in the world. As the weather turned back to spring, the group gathered to discuss any interest in trying once again. They had learned of several potential steamboats, but none seemed more intriguing than the story of the Arabia, the great white ship that sunk not too far from the town of Kansas, what we know today as Kansas City. Without hesitation, the decision was made. Find the next boat. Find the Arabia. Continue down the ramp as our story continues.